Right, the recollection of forms of spirit in James Joyce's Finnegans Wake. This is how it will be structured. It's in 4 parts, just like the wake is in 4 parts, and each one will be corresponding to a section from Hegel's Phenomenology of Spirit. Those of you who have read it will recognize the titles of these sections. Sense certainty and perception, that is, and the understanding are the first 2. The memory of disgrace. These are quotes from the wake I'm using in that title. Reproductive memory. Sense certainty and perception. The theme of guilt in the wake is introduced through pictorial form of the most fundamental kind, sensory content whereby the immaterial and the abstract are material and concrete, mere appearance. Underneath the memoriam. I have actually posted a series of videos where I narrate the entire narrative of the wake, if you're interested, but there are better audiobooks for it. The understanding. Pictorial thought is a mode of concrete knowledge constituted out of associations and abstract relations. There is a reality underlying the appearances, and the understanding disentangles the operations of recollection, while in the process identifying and distinguishing the necessary from the contingent, meaningful associations from mere coincidences. Immemorial creative memory. Reason. From the necessity underlying associations, reason operating instinctively follows through a somewhat thoughtless acceptance of a correlation between the self and its world. And at the conclusion, now by memory inspired, turn the wheel again. Spirit. The thoughtful working out of this relationship is undertaken by spirit. An heroic act of recollection returns the categories of the particular and the individual back into a relation with the universal. The memory of disgrace. Reproduction. Section 1. Memory extempore. Proposing and intellect formally considering. Like I said, these are quotes from the wake. So, river run past even Adams, from swerve of shore to bend of bay, brings us by a commodious vicus of recirculation back to house, castle, and environs. The wake opens with a word evoking the German word erinnern, to recollect. Continuing from the last line of the novel, us then Finnegan, take bust of thee, memory, till thousands thee lips the key to given, away alone, alas the loved, along the. A Heartfelt Entreaty by Anna Livia Plurabel. To be remembered resounds at the end of the narrative, only for it to be taken up again at the beginning, with an invocation to recollection, that capacity the operation of which circulates through the veins of the text, bringing in its wake ideas and inspirations in the form of literary, historical, or genealogical allusions. expressed in a variety of registers, ranging from that of the abstract jargon of a philosopher to the more earthly kind of an Irish hod carrier. The unfamiliar signs are thus presented and are, of course, in need of interpretation. However, the reader's interpretive activity plays its part in the dynamism that contributes to its meaning, but Aubert is most assuredly mistaken when he writes, "From the very first word, Finnegans Wake sets out to be impenetrable, river run, for this word is not to be found in any dictionary, and we cannot even obtain a purchase on it, for something else is missing, something which ought to precede it, either the subject if this is a verb, or the article if a noun, or, on the other hand, if no preceding element is in fact lacking, then a capital letter has been omitted, that is, a form of differentiation within the word itself, and is perhaps doubly lacking if river run happens to be a proper noun." That's from Aubert's essay, which is just called A River Run. This is an instance, this is just my view, by the way, but feel free to comment, of a theory concerning how language works, structuralism, post-structuralism, obtruding upon the phenomenology or experience of language, similar to that of theories of memory, obscuring the phenomenology of a memory. From a phenomenological point of view, we can quite easily obtain a purchase upon any word at all, even one we have never encountered before, because of associations, connotations, generated by recollection. Having gone through a process of reflection and abstraction, what then needs to be focused upon is the result. What is it that emerges from the process of abstraction, not the fact that it has been produced by the process of abstraction? Philosophers reflect upon the process. Genetic critics, for instance, I mentioned genetic criticism in my previous post, looking at the deep structures that produce phenomena, and by taking such and looking back at what produced it, the conditions, the ground, they lose sight of the simple. We know full well that the simple is mediated, for nothing is immediate. What is of interest is what is to be simple and not simple as mediated. What is required is a simple looking at. Hegel argues that it is intelligence that comprehends the signs or the representations, such as those that we encounter in the wake, an initial stage of recollection that concerns representation in general, whereby intelligence internalizes and universalizes an initial immediate intuition that serves no function as a sign of anything else. Intelligence, having taken the sign into its possession, so to speak, it can replicate the activities of recollection in reproducing the sign, which is in itself an individual connection, and elevating it into a universal connection. Word and its meaning are thereby objectively combined, and it is because of recollection operating throughout the singular language of the wake that the issue of guilt in various guises regularly appears as a universal theme. Indeed, guilt is evoked on the very first page with a loud clap of thunder. Okay, here we go. Like I said, I have narrated the whole of the wake. I think I messed this up the first time, so I shall mess it up again. Ba ba badal gawar taka mina ron con bron tona ron twan thun rov aron aons corn to who would an end thurnok. That's composed of different words from different languages, all meaning thunder. And Baba Badal, the dreamer, seems to have a bit of a stutter. Baba Badal, that's supposed to evoke the Tower of Babel, or Babel, as you say in some parts of the world. At the beginning, wait a minute, where was I? Yeah. The many foreign words that comprise the thunder words all mean thunder, which Joyce connected to the philosopher Giambattista Vico, who connected it to humankind's primal awareness of guilt. Humans, that's us, in their primitive condition, at the beginning there was a return via the commodius vicus, that's suggesting Vico. Humans in their primitive condition, Vico surmises, through experiencing thunder's rumbling outburst, interpret it as divine outrage bellowing forth from the sky. The cause of which outrage they have to determine for themselves, but such is the nature of guilt that one can feel guilty without actually being guilty. The Vico incidentally postulated a perpetual recurrence, a fourfold historic pattern which is used throughout the wake as a structuring device, but I'll get into that later. The fear and guilt having been felt, they then retreated into their caves, and thus instigated by guilt feelings, in effect was set in motion the process that gradually led towards a more civilized form of life. The wake's thunder word is a divine bellowing, followed by the fall of Finnegan, understood as the fall from grace of Adam, the first man. So did Arbe at Ivy's Hollywood Arbor. I'm quoting from the wake now, perhaps I should have put it on screen. From whence derives this municipal sin business, that is to say, original sin. The sin of a particular man which is never made clear, and the sin of every man which is never made clear either. Municipal sin business. When the hen, I think it's given the name actually in the wake, I think it's called Berta. When the hen, pecking at the Egyptian midden in chapter 5 of book 1, uncovers fragments of half-rotted orange peel, it is at one level recovering bits of HCE's corpse. Its sack is called a cul-de-sac of rubbish she rubbed, a cul-de-sac of rubbish she rubbed, and later Humphrey describes her gifts as all the riflings of her vacuum cleaner. There's a quote there from Hegel's philosophy of mind. Intelligence is this nocturnal pit in which is stored a world of infinitely many images and representations, yet without being in consciousness. According to the Bible, Adam was expelled from Eden because the gods, which is actually plural, the Hebrew word is plural, feared he would become immortal like them. And the Lord God said, Behold, the man is become as one of us, to know good and evil. And now, lest he put forth his hand, and take also of the tree of life, and eat, and live forever. So the Lord God banished him from the Garden of Eden. Now the dreamer at this point is sitting on an outdoor toilet in the backyard of his inn. Hence you will find many references to the Battle of Waterloo. So, following on from the thunderclap, a scene of battle from bygone years materialises, in which the Emperor Wellington, that's Wellington, lies beneath his shield, having been unhorsed, while the pigeons pair, the ginnies, have flown, and the three crows have flapped away, croaking of downfall and calamity and devastation to all four quarters of the heavens. I've repeated myself again, it's such a good point. I'll have to... Anyway, I'm not redoing it. Ginnies refers both to the couple of young mares on the battlefield and to a pair of Napoleonic filles de régiment, or groupies I suppose they were. These polymorphous beings correspond to the two temptresses in the park episode. That's Joseph Campbell and Henry Morton Robinson's interpretation. A skeleton key to Finnegans Wake, which is one of the, in fact it might have been the first book about the Wake, which is still useful today, and I recommend it. And ginnies are chamber pots. And three soldiers also witnessed HCE's sin in the park. So, the pigeon pairs, the ginnies have flown, and three crows have flapped away, croaking of downfall and calamity, and devastation to all four quarters of the earth. Stones have been known to move and trees to speak. Augurs and understood relations have. By maggots and choughs and rooks brought forth the secrets man of blood. That's from Macbeth. It's a connection. It's not in the Wake. It's a connection I make to the passages that I've just read, because that's what the Wake is all about. Making connections. So, the whole of nature is conspiring to disclose the unnatural sin of murder. That's in Macbeth, not the Wake. But there is an unnatural sin, of course, which the whole of nature, the Wake narrative, is conspiring to conceal. Humphrey's sin in the park. So there's a quote here from Anthony Burgess. Finnegans Wake is as close to a work of nature as any artist ever got, massive, baffling, serving nothing but itself, suggesting a meaning but never quite yielding anything but a fraction of it, and yet, like a tree, desperately simple. And like nature in Macbeth, the whole of the text is conspiring to disclose the unnatural sin of what? Aside from his indiscretion in the park, that HCE is guilty of, He is perhaps also guilty of a sin so unnatural it dare not be mentioned at all, even in a dream, and so the word suffers a slight change, insect. Hence, earwicker is an earwig, and many of the characters appear as insects. Issy the butterfly fondles like forceps, persequestulates his Vanessa from floor to floor, from flower to flower, pursuing his butterfly from flower to flower. The whole of the narrative is conspiring to reveal the unnatural sin of. To be continued.